welcome back. Today we're going to conclude our unit on solving problems biblically. We've been working in the Smyth and Helwys formation series, and let's start by looking back over the first 3 weeks of this unit. In Nehemiah, we learned that we need to discern what the true problem is before we attempt to solve it. In Proverbs, we learned that it was important to make plans even knowing that often our plans will go awry. Also in Proverbs last week, we learned that we need to seek God's wisdom as we begin to solve problems. Now, today we'll be looking at Ecclesiastes, and the question we're asking is, what keeps us from moving forward to solve our problems? What causes us to hesitate? I was thinking a little bit this week about board games. I don't know about you, but when I was young, I used to enjoy playing board games, and actually today I still do. When I was growing up, we had lots of board games around our house. Some had elements such as spinners or dice, and a lot of the outcome of the game was left up to chance. I gravitated towards those games which had more certainty to them. My game of choice was always Monopoly, and I learned some strategies that worked out for me very often. In fact, very few of my family members, even today, will play Monopoly with me. My game of choice today as an adult is chess. And the thing I like about chess is there's a lot of certainty. You have complete knowledge, and it's all based on cause and effect. Both players know everything, and nothing is left to chance. Now, wouldn't it be great if life was like that, where there was 100% certainty and you understood and knew everything? Well, we know that life isn't like that. And this week, as we look at the first 6 verses of chapter 11 of Ecclesiastes, we really are looking to answer the question, how should we as Christians deal with the uncertainties of life? Well, our writer starts by contrasting things that are certain and things that are uncertain. You know, the things that are certain, he says, are when a rain cloud is overhead, it's going to rain. When a tree is old and weak, it's going to fall. And if you spend enough time watching the Weather Channel just prior to a big tropical storm, you're for sure not going to be productive and you'll end up fearful. Those are things that are certainties. He also points to things that are uncertain, such as natural disasters, the start of life, and the prospects facing the farmer who sows in the spring, hoping to reap in the fall. These are all things that we see in life that have uncertain outcomes. So how should we approach life as a Christian in face of the uncertainties that we know are there? In verse 1, we read, "Send out your bread upon the waters, for after many days you will get it back." Bread could be an analogy for all of the resources God has blessed us with, both tangible and intangible. We can take those resources and consume them. We can save them up because life is uncertain and we never know when we're going to need those resources. Or we can trust God and we can send those resources out, meaning we can invest in the work of the kingdom. The writer assures us that when we're willing to invest even in light of the uncertainties, that will always come back to us in the form of blessings. In verse 2, he says, "Divide your means 7 ways or even 8, for you do not know what disaster might happen on earth." You know, as I approach retirement, I think a lot about how I am to invest my money. And one of the things financial advisors will tell you is don't put all your eggs in one basket because you just don't know what's going to happen. It would not be prudent to invest all of your retirement savings in the stock of one single company. You just don't know what's going to happen. And so I think the teaching for us as it relates to facing a life of uncertainty is to be prudent and to be wise with our resources and invest them properly. Next, take a look at verse 4. "Whoever observes the wind will not sow, and whoever regards the clouds will not reap." This kind of goes back to the idea of watching the Weather Channel just before a tropical storm. You know, if we're not careful, we can look at all the reasons why things might not work out, and that can lead us to a position of fear, doubt, and worry. For a Christian, that is really not the witness that we want. We need to be careful not to focus on failure, but to trust God and to move ahead knowing that even in uncertainties, everything will work out in God's kingdom. In, in verse 5, we read, "You do not know the work of God who makes everything." Here there's a reminder to us that we do not understand fully the mind of God, and therefore we can't with absolute certainty understand how things work out in life. Therefore, it's important for us to adopt a position of trusting God. And it's also a reminder to us that often what we might consider to be a failure or a disaster, often given enough time, turns out to be a blessing. So we have to trust God in face of uncertainty. And then finally in verse 6, "In the morning sow your seed, and at evening do not let your hands be idle. For you do not know which will prosper, this or that, or whether both alike will be good." This is a reminder to be diligent and to put in the work. In other words, don't just do the minimum to get by, but be diligent, do the work. When we do the work, we can have confidence that even though there will be circumstances and situations beyond our control, we did everything that we could do. Now, I was thinking a little bit about what Jesus had to say about this idea of the uncertainties of life, and I was thinking about the parable in Mark chapter 4, the parable of the sower. And Jesus talked about some of the seeds would fall on hard ground, and yet some would fall on fertile and productive ground. And that seed would produce many times over. And it's a reminder that Jesus understood that there would be uncertainties in life, and we never know how God is going to take what we do and bless it. But we can be assured that even though some things don't seem to work out, in the end, if we are faithful, God will take our faithfulness and will bless it and multiply it. So, what is the conclusion about facing life of uncertainty? For me, it is all about our testimony. You know, if life was certain, there would be no need to have faith. But faith is the very essence of living a life of uncertainty. And how we approach a life that is so uncertain says a lot about who we believe God is. It's our testimony. We testify best about our Savior in the midst of an uncertain life. When things happen that are unexpected and cause hardship, our continued faith and trust in the Lord is a message that a dying world needs to hear. We can be frozen by fear, doubt, and worry, or we can trust God and be good stewards, accepting the uncertainties of life, knowing that God will be faithful to us in the end. Well, I hope you've gleaned some ideas about solving problems biblically from our study this month. Next week, we begin a new 5-week series from 1 John. We're going to be talking about Jesus as the Word of life and how, as the Word of life, He provides us both instruction and comfort. I hope you'll join us next week. Until then, have a great week. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.